Imagine walking into a real estate office and seeing the price tag on a brand new apartment, 0.001 Bitcoin. Or picking up a week's worth of groceries for your family for a few thousand Satoshis. Sounds insane. Maybe. But if you're thinking in fiat terms, you might be underestimating just how far Bitcoin's purchasing power could go. So what will 1 Bitcoin buy you in 2045? In today's episode of Bitcoin Backstage, we break down Michael Saylor's open source Bitcoin 24 model to see where he thinks Bitcoin will be in 20 years. And we go backstage with the immutable Jeff Booth to talk about how Bitcoin can unleash prosperity beyond its value in today's dollar terms. Let's mine deep. Michael Saylor argues that Bitcoin is digital capital, the first asset that perfectly stores economic energy. Unlike fiat, which bleeds value through inflation or real estate and stocks, which are tied to debt and counterparty risk. Bitcoin absorbs global wealth without dilution. That's why he predicts Bitcoin could reach 13 million per coin by 2045. Sounds insane? It's not. That only requires an average of 25% annual growth, way less than Bitcoin's historical norm. But if Bitcoin absorbs that much value, what happens to everything else? We've been conditioned to believe that prices always go up. But what if that's a lie? What if prices aren't rising? What if our money is just getting weaker? Jeff Booth, entrepreneur, investor, and author of The Price of Tomorrow, explains that technology naturally makes everything cheaper. Computing, energy, manufacturing, and medicine, automation, and AI are swallowing entire industries, cutting costs at an exponential pace. If left alone, this would make life dramatically more affordable. But our current financial system fights this trend. Instead of letting deflation benefit the people, governments print money and borrow against future growth that may never come. They inflate away debt, but in doing so, they steal the benefits of deflation from everyone else. When we say Bitcoin fixes this is what we're talking about. Thanks to Bitcoin, capital can simultaneously be more productive while also driving increased productivity gains. Combine that with Bitcoin's mining energy infrastructure benefits, and you've got the recipe for a Bitcoin-driven productivity boom that could reshape society. Even in the short term, since Bitcoin's launch, what once cost 100 Bitcoin now costs 10. What once cost 10 Bitcoin might soon cost just 1. This isn't a crash, it's a realignment. Bitcoin exposes how distorted prices have become under a fiat standard, which brings us back to the question, what could 1 Bitcoin really buy you in 2045?
Our assumptions, well, Bitcoin's currently 22 basis points of the global economy. That's $2 trillion. Over 20 years, right now it's been growing about 60% a year. If it decelerates from 60% a year to 20% a year, the average return is going to be 29% a year over the 20 years. That is the base case. That arrives at a price of $13 million a Bitcoin in USD terms, or $280 trillion in the network.
When the money printer goes burr, fiat loses buying power. You know it, I know it, and more people are waking up. But in the US, most places don't accept Bitcoin yet. If you're stuck spending dollars, at least stop earning fiat rewards. The 2% Fold Bitcoin Rewards credit card lets you earn unlimited Bitcoin back on everyday purchases. Saylor's math suggests Bitcoin's market cap could reach 250 trillion, absorbing value from real estate, gold, bonds, and stocks. If Booth is right, and technology keeps making everything cheaper, and Saylor is right, and Bitcoin absorbs global capital, then Bitcoin's purchasing power won't just increase. It will redefine wealth itself. So why should you care? Because most people are still trapped in fiat thinking. If Jeff Booth is right, and we're headed for a battle between artificial monetary expansion and the natural deflation of technology, then Bitcoin isn't just an alternative. It's an inevitable replacement. If Saylor is right, by 2045, one Bitcoin might buy more than just a house. It could buy an entire neighborhood, a lifetime of energy, or wealth that lasts generations. Together, they paint a bright orange future powered by Bitcoin. Now, let's go backstage with Jeff Booth at Bitcoin MENA.
So, considering the rapid development of AI and automation, what role do you see Bitcoin playing in the future of work and the global economy?
So Bitcoin resolves the paradox that the free market is deflationary. Every bit of the work that entrepreneurs do to try to create value has to compete against what came before it. And AI is no different. It competes against what came before it, which was not AI. And so if you're using AI and another company is not using AI, the other company is going to go broke. Your company is going to go broke to the new person that's using AI at a lower and lower cost. So that process would drive abundance to all of us if it allowed prices to fall to all of us, and it would consolidate all of the gains from AI to control us in the other system. So in Bitcoin, it resolves the paradox. And if you're measuring in Bitcoin, all of prices, that's why I say Bitcoin isn't going up. Prices are falling against Bitcoin because now you're in the system that you should have always lived in, where the free market is in service of you instead of a system that extracts that gain from you and consolidates it in very few people.
So in a deflationary economy, like the one you predict in the price of tomorrow, prices would come down in perpetuity, but wouldn't wages as well? And how do you think people would adapt to this? Would we be negotiating the size of our pay cuts?
Yeah, so that's actually a really interesting thing. The existing system works because people don't realize inflation is wage deflation. So their wages are going down, and they're in economics, they call it wages are sticky, because we don't think about the money being manipulated underneath. So we don't think we have to ask for his raises as fast. That is the thing that concentrates wealth and power in very few people, and everybody else gets destroyed. If wages are sticky, it works in reverse. Your employer is forced to ask you to take less wages more often, and it works exactly in reverse. It's a boom for the middle class and poor, because the employer doesn't want to lose you as fast, and so you have the negotiating power.
A lot of the barriers for many Bitcoiners is the education and how to use it. It's complicated. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, when we try to self-custody, how do you explain that to your 80-year-old grandma? It's not as easy to use. What do you see it happening in Bitcoin in order for us to reach massive adoption? And if we do you think everybody's going to self-custody eventually?
So I think people should self-custody. At some point in the future, Bitcoin will touch 8 billion people on this planet. Not might touch 8 billion people, and it will touch 8 billion people on this planet. And as that does, it's really what ends up happening in Bitcoin is Bitcoin doesn't change, you change, right? And you understand, and you start to understand that we've always lived in a world of extraction and exploitation, and you don't have to anymore. You can move your time and energy to a world of cooperation that benefits all humanity. So it's inevitable that people make that switch. And all of these ideas or different ways that people teach, different tools to bring more abundance, are just more and more ways that this transitions across time and space. But it's going to take a long time because it's not Bitcoin that needs to change. Bitcoin is imposing the free market, a global free market on all of us. And if you want to live in the other system, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, which makes the opportunity in Bitcoin better and better and better.
How do you think it's going to happen, though? Are people going to, because there's a whole lot of commotion, especially like on Twitter, and when you talk to Bitcoiners, they tell you not to spend your sats. Like, what would you say about that?
I spend my sats every day, and then I replace them. So I am actively engaged in building the world I want to see. That doesn't mean other people have to. They can see Bitcoin whatever way they want. They can hold their sats. If they want to hold it on an exchange and take that risk, they can do that. Isa, if you asked how you came into this or how I came into this, I once lived over in a world where I thought the world, that exploitive world, was normal. And it took me some time to really understand Bitcoin, to be able to get deeper and deeper and deeper. And as I got deeper and deeper and deeper, I went through the same process that most people went. First, I want to just hold it as a store of value. First, I held it on an exchange, then self-custody, then wait, this is more than that. And as I got deeper and deeper, my time moved more into Bitcoin. I think that path is the same thing for every single person on this planet.